Okay, well, we can go ahead and get started. My name is Emily, and I'm part of the Catalyst team. And so we're excited to have you here for this workshop. This is really just going to be over the application cycle and the timeline of things, and really how to get started, and just some things to be aware of as you get ready to apply. Um, and we'll have some people maybe continuing to join as we get going, but anyway, so just to start off, I'm going to go over some of the requirements for entering med school. And so these are some of the minimum requirements. And so you have to be a US citizen or hold a permanent visa. You have to have a GPA average of 3.0 or better, and a letter grade of C or better in all the required courses. And so even if you have a lower grade than that, if as long as you retake the course and get a C or better, then that meets the requirement. And then you have to have a minimum score of 492 on the MCAT, and then recommendation letters. You need one pre-med committee letter with a faculty letter or three faculty letters. So those are just your minimum basic requirements for the application. And then these are all of the prerequisites for medical school. So you have to have a minimum of 90 undergrad hours. And then for your required courses, for pretty much every med school, you need a semester of general biology or zoology, including lab. You need 2 semesters of general chemistry, 2 semesters of organic chemistry, 2 semesters of physics, 2 semesters of English, 1 semester of genetics, molecular biology, or cell biology, and then 3 semesters of psychology, sociology, phys philosophy, or humanities. Um, and most of those are included in like pre-med tracks at undergrad universities. And then recommended for most med schools is a semester in biochemistry and a semester of a writing intensive English course. And so those are really the minimum required courses. And you can go look for school specific requirements, because some schools will have some additional requirements, like some require calculus and stats, or they may recommend them. I think those are usually required or included in pre-med tracks. And so those are helpful to have. And so there are some other courses that are just helpful to have in general, and that'll make you better prepared for med school. So again, these are just the minimum requirements. Okay, so getting into the application timeline, starting with freshman year, I'm not sure where each of you are currently, but if you are in your freshman year, some of the biggest things to do is to be deciding if medicine is the path for you. It's really a great time for exploring your interests and passions, and begin documenting your activities. And this is super important. Um, I know that when I was going through my application, there were some things that I hadn't documented as well, and so trying to go back in time and remember what you did, when you did it, for how many hours can be a lot. And so it's really helpful to keep that up front. Making an Excel sheet or something like that can be helpful. Just something that you can use to keep yourself organized, and so that you're better prepared when you're starting your application. And then for sophomore year, continue taking required courses. develop a relationship with your pre-health professions advisor and professors. And so most colleges have a pre-health professions department. And so that's really one of the best places to go to for questions, for any type of guidance. Um, and it's really helpful to have a good relationship with those advisors because they can just provide a lot of guidance on how to continue and get ready for med school and applying and um, oftentimes they'll have like a pre-health committee which they can write a packet letter or a committee letter. And so that's really nice for schools to have. And so if you don't know much about your pre-health professions department, then it would be super helpful to learn more about it, to go meet those professors that are involved in the department, and get to know your science professors, because it's really helpful. I don't know if you have to have a recommendation letter from a science professor, but I do know that it is helpful to have at least one. And so, getting to know all your professors is great. It's especially helpful to know your professors for your pre-med classes because they will be writing your recommendation letters. And then also get involved. Continue figuring out what you're interested in, what you're passionate about. You can get involved with things like research, things like campus organizations, community groups. There's so many things that you can be involved with. Um, and not all of it needs to be like pre-med related or medicine related. And so really find what you enjoy to do and spend your time doing that. And then junior year, continue taking your required courses, start preparing for the MCAT. And then we did have an MCAT workshop if you hopefully were able to make it to that, which covered a lot in detail about studying for the MCAT, but just to go over it shortly, it's helpful to prepare about 3 months in advance, and then usually people will take it in the spring of junior year around April. Um, and I think mid-May is like the last time to take it if you want to get it done before the application opens for you to submit. So be thinking about that. You can do prep courses. Yeah. And then start thinking about recommendation letters. It's super helpful to ask people early so that they can have time to write your letters. Committee letters count as two. And if you're applying to DO schools, you need one letter from a DO physician. I believe that's recommended, but that's pretty important. And then have your letter submitted as soon as you can because they can, yeah, they're just important to have as early in the application process as possible. And then continue volunteering, gaining clinical experience, and create your school list. So it's a good time to figure out what schools you want to apply to, what you're interested in, and a couple ways to do that. There is a website called MSAR that you do have to pay for, but it has a lot of information about pretty much all the med schools. And so it can provide those details about what schools are looking for. And then for DO schools, there's Choose DO Explorer, which is free. Or if you already know kind of where you're wanting to apply, you can always just go to those specific websites and read up on their schools there. Okay. And then your spring semester is when you'll take the MCAT between January and May of junior year. And then that that's when you'll complete the application. So the application usually opens beginning of May, and then you can submit it typically around June 1st. And so it's a little different every year, And I'll get into the exact dates for this upcoming cycle um, in a little bit. But you want to turn in your applications as soon as possible because admissions are rolling. And so they'll look at applications in the order that they're received. And so it's just helpful to get them in early. And then secondaries start getting sent out in the early fall. And then you want to get those filled out as soon as possible as well. And again, schools do rolling admissions, so you want to get them in as early as you can while also not sacrificing quality. And so that can be difficult to balance. And if you are concerned about it, I would recommend taking the extra time you need to make sure that you have a very good application. Because you want to put your best foot forward and you want to provide the best representation of you that you can. And so while you want to get everything in quickly, you do want to make sure that you're putting in your effort, you're double checking, triple checking everything. Like you don't want there to be spelling mistakes because that looks like you rushed it and that you didn't care as much about it. And so you want to just make sure that you it's as high a quality as it can be. Okay, and then senior year, that's when you finish secondary applications. Those are really helpful to pre-write. Um, a lot of the secondaries follow like very specific categories, and so I'll go over this a little bit more later as well. Um, but yeah, if you can pre-write things for your secondaries, and then you can kind of just edit them to be specific for the schools that you're submitting them to. That can be helpful with the timing of things. And then interviews generally run August to March, and then enjoy your senior year. There's not a ton that you have to do for the application or your pre-med track, and so just make sure to enjoy the time that you have. And then the gap year. So some people will take gap years, and that's great. I think some schools are actually encouraging gap years more now, and so um, they're definitely great to have. In our class, we're I don't know, we're pretty 50-50, I think, of who came in after a gap year or gap years and who came in straight from undergrad. So it just really depends on the best path for you. Um, And so during the gap year, you want to find something meaningful to do, usually healthcare related. A lot of people will work. I know that scribing is a great option. Getting more shadowing, just more clinical experience, and yeah, just doing what you need to do to be more prepared for when you apply the next cycle. And then take the MCAT as well. And then you just basically do everything and start it the spring of your senior year if you were going to take one gap year. And then that would look different if you took multiple. Okay. So the AMCAS application. So for this cycle, it opens on May 1st. And so that's when you can go in and you can start filling things out. And then applications can start being submitted May 27th of this year. And so pay attention to timing. You can look at the website and have your transcripts sent in a timely manner to avoid delays. And so there is quite a bit to fill out on that site. And so, yeah, you just have to put in the time and then make sure that you're staying on schedule. And then fill out the work and activities section. So you can put in 15 experiences with a 700 character limit each. You do 3 most meaningful with expanded 1,325 character limit. And again, you want to do quality over quantity. And then write your personal statement. Okay. And secondaries are prompts that allow you to share more detail about yourself, uh, allow schools to get to know you better. And so some examples of common secondary questions are what are a good fit? Why are you a good fit for our program? What will you bring to the program? Discuss a time you failed. Describe a challenge you faced. Describe a moral or ethical dilemma you've encountered, and talk about any time you've taken off. And then a lot of them will have, is there anything else that you would like to share? And so it's usually pretty encouraged to use this prompt to share something. Um, it's just another way for you to help them get to know you better and help. Yeah, it's an open prompt that allows you to share whatever else you would like to share. And so it is helpful to fill it out. And then interviews. So they generally take place between August and March. And some schools conduct in person, some do virtual or hybrid. And you just want to start preparing for them early, practice answering questions, write out answers to common questions, and then take part in mock interviews. And so we also just want to let you know that we have an interview workshop coming up April 17th. And so we also have the opportunity for you to sign up for a mock interview. And so that's a great opportunity to practice your interview skills and just get you more ready for those interviews. So we have time for questions. If any of you have questions that you would like to ask.
I have a question.
Yeah.
For the letters of recommendation, like I very much understand like reaching out early and stuff like that, but aren't they submitted like electronically? And what happens if like you reach out, like 4 months before the application opens and stuff, and then the person you ask is like, okay, like here's your letter. Like, what do you do for that time? Like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, so I guess you don't want to ask too early. So you do want to keep in mind the timing of things. I remember when I did my letters, it was done through our pre-health committee and they had their own process. And so I'm not sure if yours has something similar, but that would be something to look into. Um, because yeah, I'm not 100% sure about that.
No, you're all good. Like, so I definitely we do have a pre-health committee at my university, so I'll reach out to them and stuff. But I just didn't know if you had any tidbits. But thank you.
Okay.
I
Okay.
had,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry, I had kind of a similar question to Alexandra, actually. It was also about the committee letters. I was just curious, do all med schools require an additional faculty letter in addition to the committee letter? I'm just curious because at my school, for the committee letter, you're required to have, there'll be at least 3 to 6 faculty mem letters in there. Um, So what I guess is kind of the purpose of doing that additional faculty letter if you already have so many in the committee letter?
Yes. So what that means, the committee letter is really talking about the letter that your committee writes. And so usually the committee includes their own letter with the packet and then also
Yeah.
the faculty letters. Does that sound right?
Okay, that makes sense. So if like the faculty letters are included in that packet, that still counts as an individual faculty letter plus the committee letter.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, and then I see a question. Does the timeline for this cycle similar for DO schools as well? Um, yes, it is similar. I don't know the exact dates for the DO application, but it is a very similar cycle. And so that would be something to look at on the DO application website specifically. Do we have any more questions?
What did your application look like, just out of curiosity, when you applied?
What do you mean specifically?
Um, like what kind of timeline did you generally follow?
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's see. It was a few years ago, so I think I submitted the AMCAS application. I didn't submit it like right on the day that they could be submitted, but I submitted it within like 2 weeks of that, I think. Um, and then when I got my secondaries, so when I applied, I started out by applying very broadly. So I had quite a few schools on my list. And then once I got the secondaries from a lot of those schools, that's kind of when I weeded out some more schools. And so based on their secondaries is kind of how I narrowed my list. And so then for the ones that I kept, I filled those out within like 2 weeks, which I think is usually a um, pretty good timeline for those. And then let's see, my interviews. I think I had one in November, and then the rest were in like January. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Okay,
So were you a junior going in? So you didn't take a gap year, is that correct?
that's correct. Yeah, I did.
Okay, so when did you take your MCAT?
I took mine. So I had planned to take it in April of my junior year, and getting up to that date, I decided that I wasn't quite ready, and so I pushed it back to like mid-May. And so that worked out, and it still went out with the initial application. Um, but I was more prepared.
Okay, thank you. That's exactly what I'm doing right now, actually.
Oh, okay, great. Any other questions? Well, if you do want to stick around, and ask some more questions, that's totally fine. Or if you have somewhere to be, that's totally fine too. This one was a little shorter, but we have our interview workshop coming up next month, and so be on the lookout for that sign up and be thinking of if you want to sign up for a mock interview as well. But thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, actually, on that, I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question. Okay. Do you know specifically for OU, are they doing in-person interviews or are they doing virtual? Do you know anything about that?
I think they are actually, I don't know for sure. Let me see if I can look it up really quick. Um, Mine was virtual. I just don't know if they've moved back to in person. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I can ask around and then I can get back to you. Um, if you want to give me your email.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Alrighty, I'll drop it on the chat.
sounds good.
Hey, well, thank you so much. Have a good
Oh,
night.
yeah, you too.